Harlem Run is an organization that I started almost exactly 10 years ago after running a marathon, falling in love with running, but recognizing that there were not a lot of us Black people in my training program, in races. So I wanted to share that experience in a way that centered us and our joy.
Why did you start running?
I started running because I was very depressed, actually. I had been super active growing up. I had run the 400 meter hurdles, but distance was never my thing until I was very depressed, just like on social media, watching people live their best lives. And I saw a Black guy who was training for a marathon. And my first thought was, regular Black people don't do that, right? Like if you're not from Kenya or Ethiopia, you're not. But this dude was running and he was talking about how it was changing his life. If you know a long distance runner, you know all we do is try to convince other people to run. And
Mhm.
I followed his journey and I decided, listen, if he can do it, I can do it. So that is where like a key example of representation matters. Him running showed me that I could run, and sure enough, it's transformed my life. Everything has come from that decision.
Do you mind sharing why you were depressed?
Yeah, no, not at all. So I was just, life circumstances. My father was very sick with Lewy body dementia, and it's similar to Alzheimer's. So he was losing his language. He didn't know where he was, who I was. I was changing his diaper. Just really depressing to see a person you love slowly crumble before you. And I was in a really bad relationship with somebody who didn't value me, but I saw my value through that person. So when that person didn't call me, I was like unable to get out of bed. When he called me, suddenly I mattered. And finally I couldn't find a job. So all of that just meant that I was home, feeling really badly about myself. And in light of the time that we're recording this, right, like recognizing Twitch, who recently took his own life, that these are very real issues, right? And there was a time when I didn't see a future for myself. I thought that that was the end of my story. So I am just so grateful to running and then to counseling and the community that I formed, that I'm still here.
So you run, you do your very first marathon. Was it a half marathon? Was it a look at me, am
It
I
was
trying to cheat? A quarter marathon? You did the whole 26.2, I think it is.
the
You
whole
went the full
26.2. That's
you went
right.
the
San
full
Diego
kabang.
Rocky. Yes, the whole damn thing.
Damn. Okay, go on. You're a beast.
And
Go ahead.
yeah, and it was just amazing. Like there's nothing like doing something difficult and recognizing you're much more powerful than you thought, right? Like I can't tell you the number of times I wanted to quit, but I did it. And that made me realize, I could apply this strategy to other aspects of my life. Other very difficult, seemingly impossible things. Well, I can break that up into small pieces like a marathon training plan, and I can get my goal.
So the point of Harlem Run was to connect us, or was it
Exactly.
about connecting us and helping us with our mental health? Was it just connecting us and mental, body, physical, mental? I'm trying to get it out. Mind, body, and
Yeah,
spirit.
yeah.
That's the word. Was
All
that what
all of
that was
that.
for?
It was essentially I had this transformational experience and I thought more people like me need to experience this. So mind body, soul. Um, as the group grew, I realized that people were finding their life partners, myself included. People were ending relationship because they realized they were bad relationships and forming new ones. They were getting new jobs. They were making best friends, right? I wanted people to see how running is a vehicle for personal transformation. And I would learn also for social change.
How did Harlem Run grow over the years? It's been a decade, as you said. How has it
Yeah.
grown?
It started slowly. So there was 6 months where I showed up every Monday night by myself, and thank goodness to my mother who just kept saying like, keep showing up, people are watching. One day they'll show up, and if you're not there, then the group will fail. So that sort of like was in the back of my mind that I had to keep showing up. And little by little, I think what has grown the group is the vulnerability that I brought in the beginning, right? In being honest and authentically myself. Also in making the group a place where we sort of co-create what it looks like, right? Like I do not have all of the answers. I don't know everything. So bringing in other leaders of different paces, of different racial and ethnic backgrounds, and creating a space where we could all contribute to this community and what it looks like. So over the years, that's meant we've done races together, we've traveled to different countries together, we've hosted fundraising events, we host events around mental health, right? Like it's about running, but it's much bigger than that. And I forgot the big thing. We've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for nonprofits, including Planned Parenthood.
You're like, and let me bury the lead. We out here building
I
money and
know.
changing lives.
Yes.
Um, you mentioned him, so I'll talk about it because that's been on my heart too. Because I feel like everybody felt the death of someone, whether you knew him or not. You know what the biggest takeaway for me was? You can really feel like you know someone even if you've never met them. I knew him, I knew his wife, and I knew his kids. Um,
Hmm.
and I was sharing this on another podcast because this person was a comedian, and I was curious about how, because I hear comedians are the saddest people. I hear that the people who make you laugh and put on so much energy to please you often are quiet and sad. And he was saying that's because you don't know who you are. I know who I am outside of this title as comedian. Twitch's death, his suicide, highlights to me two things. One, obviously, we've been told over and over again, people really are out here on social media and you think everybody's getting it. I never believe everything I see. I never believe the girl who has the greatest body and interviewing all the cutest boys or hanging out with the coolest kids. I never believe that. I believe if you work so hard at being an influencer, and I think if you work so hard at producing content to show people that you are getting it, there must be something wrong. There's a true disconnect there. So with your group, your run group specifically, you created a connection, but talk about the science behind physical activity and running. What does it feel like? It's a getaway, is it not?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I want to just say one more thing about Twitch, and to your point that you never know what somebody is going through, and that when I was very depressed, depression and anxiety, all of those things bring you inward, and it's a very internal struggle, right? So it's not, so I was able to put on a good face in many situations while still struggling internally, right? So anyway,
What
to
do you
get
know?
to,
We can talk about that. What do you mean by
yeah,
that? What do
yeah,
you mean by that? It brings you inward. And I'm
yeah.
not saying I'm perfect, and I know because I haven't struggled with it. I've been sad. I've been moments where I felt like
Mm,
in my life, I'm like, "Ugh, this is heavy," and it's
yeah.
usually associated with me not knowing my identity or who I
Mm,
am,
mhm,
or feeling like I was waiting for some sort of affirmation from someone else, whether it
mm,
be a relationship, whether it be a work relationship, personally and
mhm,
professionally. I get
mhm,
sad and have been sad when I felt like I needed affirmation that I wasn't getting. And I
mhm,
really work very hard, especially in this business, to not look towards others for affirmation.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, that's absolutely a piece of it. For me, I also think about, and I talk about this in my book, Running While Black, but I think about the ways that in society we get a lot of messages around what you should look like, what success is,
Mm,
who's valuable. And so for me, on top of my life circumstances, I was getting this message that I was unworthy, right? And I couldn't make sense of it because I once had a sense of self, but now being in this position where I couldn't get a job, okay, that means I'm not successful. Where I
mhm,
was in a really bad relationship, okay, that means that I'm ugly and stupid, right?
mhm,
And so I just found myself in this pattern where if a friend called me, sometimes I wouldn't pick up, but if I did pick up, I knew that the feelings that I was feeling, those internal feelings were too heavy, so I would pretend that everything was okay. So
mm,
on the outside, many people had no recognition of how much I was suffering, particularly because they knew me as this high performing person. So knock on wood, what happened to, Twitch taking his own life, that's a scenario that I could have see for myself, right? I was overdosing on medication and trying to numb myself and really just put myself to sleep until life got better.
mm,
And I can tell you that if I had taken my life, so many people around me would have said, I had no idea. But she went to such and such school and she did such and such, right? But none of that really matters when you're feeling a need for validation, like you said, or when the pressure of the world, gets too much, or when you have financial troubles, or you have these worries that consume you. It's life is hard, and this is unfortunately just a reality. Folks are not always okay.
And it's okay not to be okay. I think that
Absolutely.
you um, are very clear of what can happen if you take action. It's very trendy
Hmm.
to talk about mental health and
Hmm.
wellness, but there is no
Hmm.
action. Like there is no
Hmm.
action to say I want to get better, so let me
Hmm.
run. I want to get better, so
Hmm.
let me quit my job because it really
Hmm.
depresses me. I want to get
Hmm.
better, so let me get off of social media.
Hmm.
Whatever that is, whatever it is for whomever.